Welcome to On the Air with the Book Crawl with your public house host, me, Melissa Others, where authors rise as thought leaders and own the mic, where the stories behind the pages are heard and the voices lead, because every story is worth savoring. Today, we are meeting an author whose work is rooted in something so many students and parents need to understand the difference the right support can make when learning begins to feel overwhelming. And Andrea Netchita is an educator, author, artist, and the creator of My Student Toolbox, your student success guide. Her work helps students discover practical ways of becoming more organized, understanding how they learn, build confidence, and develop skills that they can carry with them throughout their education and beyond. But today, we're going beyond the book, beyond the tools, and beyond the strategy. We are meeting the beautiful Andrea, the woman behind the book. Andrea, welcome to On the Air with the Book Crawl. I'm so honored to have you here.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you so much for having me on today.
It is my pleasure. So, beautiful Andrea, let's just get right in this. Before we talk about your book on the televised version, The Book Crawl, My Student Toolbox is the name of your book. I wanted our audience to get to know you. Who is the beautiful Andrea Netchita in front of me, beyond the titles of educator, author, and what experience have shaped you to be the woman that you are today?
Mhm. I'm a very creative person, and I love history and nature and storytelling. I studied art history in my undergraduate degree, and then I went on to study medieval studies and archiving. And so my background is a bit of a mix between creativity, research, and heritage. I'm also a very nostalgic person. And I've been writing journals since I was in grade 6. So that's 26 years now. I'm also uh, a painter. I paint abstract and minimalistic sci fi and fantasy artwork. My favorite mediums are on canvas and panel and using mixed media. My experiences in academia, museums, and higher education, combined with my love of art and writing, have really shaped who I am. I think that this combination of creativity and curiosity has had a huge influence on the way that I approach life. Ultimately, I want to ignite that same creative spark um, and curiosity for learning in others and help people to reach their dreams. My own experiences have taught me that having the right strategies and tools can make all the difference.
Oh, well said, Andrea. Like, well said. And you are an incredible artist. I've seen your work. You're super creative. And I really love that you began there and really sharing with the world who you are, because books often tell us so much about, don't tell us as much about the person, but it leads to what we, you know, it shows us what we wrote as a person. So there's a difference in like, this is who I am authentically versus this is who I wrote. And I love that you're combining both of who you are in your business and your writing. And they're both very different, but I can see the strategy there with your artwork and with your writing. And in your case, your work grew from seeing some students, like your book work grows from seeing students succeed, which they generally need, um, especially in first year university.
Mhm.
So let me kind of segue into this question. Was there a particular moment in your work with students where you realized they don't need to try harder, they need better tools? What ultimately made you decide to put those tools into a book?
Mhm. Actually, this moment came when I was with a good friend of mine, and she was visiting, and she told me that she was returning to university as a mature student to change careers. And this was very exciting, of course, but I could also tell that there was something more there. And she told me that she was worried about going back, about remembering how to study, and she wasn't sure if maybe the stress or the workload was going to be too much. So she asked me if I had any strategies or advice to share from my 3 degrees with her. And my academic journey was not always an easy one.
Mhm.
I went through burnout, anxiety, stress, and I really just learned how to do it all by trial and error and just on my own, which is not ideal. And so I ended up sharing some of the strategies and tools that helped me in my university degree. And at the end of her semester, she said that this had made all of the difference for her and that she didn't think that she would have passed her courses without this. And she mentioned that it could help others as well. And this was really the that moment, that light bulb moment that you spoke of, because I realized that we are never taught how to manage learning. And so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know, you can fast track your success by learning from others who have already gone through it. And so this is when I started to write my student toolbox to gather all of these strategies and tools that helped me and put it into one resource. And I also included some life lessons, that I learned along the way. And I believe that this this is the ideal toolbox for any student or lifelong learner, and they can use it to help them with so many different aspects, whether it's studying or note taking, doing presentations, how to get organized, dealing with workflow. Everything is in there. And so it took me 2.5 years. Um, but afterwards, I published my student toolbox, and it's helping students to learn and succeed. And my friend is loving her new career.
I love that. It's brilliantly beautiful. I've read parts of your book, and there are so many tips and tricks, and it is the only toolbox for students and beyond. I'm not a student. I've told you many times that I've learned so many um, tips and tricks for myself utilizing what's in your book for entrepreneurship. Because as you know, I'm new to it. So, and like that's just the kind of incredible woman that you are. You have a friend in need, and then you share your successes and your tips, and then aha moment. Let's put this into a book. So well done, Andrea. Well done.
Thank you
What
very
have
much,
you
Melissa.
yeah, no worries. Like, you deserve all the credit. I know that wasn't I don't know if we're allowed to say this on the air, but let me ask, your book is now recognized or is a official textbook that students have to buy with the universities?
Yes,
Yep.
so it is now the main textbook for the Strategies for Success program at Wilfrid Laurier University.
That's incredible. Like, that's brilliant. Helping a friend, serving others. Oh, I have something here. And now you're helping students across the board in our region of Kitchener Waterloo. And from my heart, I hope that it expands further into more universities because you're right with what you said a little while ago. Nobody teaches how to um, maneuver learning ever. Ever. Maybe you might get a time management class in high school, but that's really about it. And there's so many more components to that. And the way that you write it speaks to who you are as a human and how you can strategize. And yeah, I'm very impressed by your work. So let me ask you this. What have you learned about connection between how a student learns, how confident they feel, and how successful they ultimately become?
So when a student understands how they learn best, what strategies work for them, then they feel more in control. And that has a huge effect on confidence. Um, when you have a system that actually works and you start seeing yourself succeed, day by day, um, it really it really feels that like I can actually do this,
Hmm.
and it feels less overwhelming. There's less stress, and so this really curates that mindset that's
Hmm.
absolutely necessary for success. And I like to say that success isn't random, it's structured. So when you have that structure, you're aware of it, and you know how to use it, then you have your plan set, right? You know what you're doing, and as you go day to day, you see that snowball, right? And those little successes become big accomplishments, and that really makes all of the difference.
It really does. So let me ask you this more personal, and we're going a little bit off track, and that's okay. Was your success structured? Did you have any like experience that caused you to create success? Like,
Yes, so in the beginning, I didn't have a structure.
mhm.
Again, nobody teaches us how to manage our learning. So I thought I had a structure, but really it wasn't. It wasn't a proper structure. And because I was struggling, I thought, okay, let me research how we learn and go from there. And that's when I discovered that there's different learning styles, and
Mhm.
there's so many different learning strategies over and beyond just taking notes, rereading notes, highlighting notes, which is what, at least in my high school, that was what we were told to do.
That was
And
it.
that works for some students. It does not work for the majority of students, and it didn't work for me.
Yeah, it
And
didn't work for me
so,
either.
no.
I'm a very hands-on learner, so they didn't have that back in the 90s when I was in
Mhm.
high school. Like, what? Hands-on? Okay.
Exactly. So once I started finding these learning strategies that went above and beyond that, I started to see those differences, right?
Mhm.
My marks
Mhm.
started improving. Um, I was remembering things more. I was making connections. It was a transformation, really. So from there, I slowly built that structure on my own. And my book really pulls all of those structures together into one resource. So students don't have to figure out everything on their own. Um, they can go step by step um, in my book, and I have lots of examples and templates, and so that can really help to fast track them. I don't like the word shortcut because usually a shortcut means you're cutting something out.
Yeah.
And sometimes those are important things. So it's not a shortcut. You still have to do the work, but it's a way that you have a plan. You can see it clearly. You follow this plan and this structure, and you will get to that success.
Oh, well said. What I hear you saying is, first, it's not a shortcut, it's an evolution of your learning. I mean,
Absolutely.
we're learning our whole lives, and to have the tools that you need to be able to learn and develop yourself, it's such a brilliant concept. As well as I also hear you saying it with the strategies, it's creating confidence. And that's a super interesting piece to this conversation because once someone begins believing in themselves and having the confidence, the way they approach the challenge can
Mhm.
completely change. Which brings me to something that reaches far beyond school. Let me ask you, many of the skills you teach, organize, focus, research, managing information, and understand how you learn, are the skills that we use throughout our life. So you're really setting a great foundation with this book. What do you hope students can carry with them long after they leave the classroom, and maybe from a personal experience as the author and woman that you are?
Mhm. I really hope that they can carry forward that confidence. Um,
Yeah.
Absolutely, because as you mentioned, we're learning our whole lives.
Mhm.
So learning doesn't just stop at school. We have to learn in our jobs, for projects, for our personal lives. Um, it's a lifelong journey,
It is.
and so I hope that the students are able to take that confidence and that structure and be able to apply it after school as well. Um, Once you know how to organize yourself and how to manage your work, and you have that confidence, um, I say you're pretty much unstoppable.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I love that answer. And you're on the same brainwave as me because when you give them the confidence and then from the tools, that's where your work and what you're doing as a human and an author and a woman, it becomes so much bigger than the student guide
Mhm,
or an A in a class because we aren't only teaching someone how to pass a class with that, we are teaching them how to trust themselves. And that
exactly.
leads to beautiful and sorry, I'm losing my voice here. And that trust within themselves will lead them into roles such as an author or a thought leader or whatever profession they choose. So you've really laid an incredible foundation, which I sense from you is like from learned experience.
Mhm.
And I can really appreciate that. And I think your readers will appreciate that at some point. Maybe not as students, they might be like, what? And, they might grasp it, but definitely as an adult, you look back and you reflect and you're like, wow, that was a powerful foundation
Mm.
that one woman led the way for. So let me ask you this. As an author, an educator, a creative, a creator, how has writing my student toolbox allowed you to take what you have learned one on one with students and turn it into a message that can reach so many more people, more than just students? This book reaches more than just students. I promise it does.
Yes, it's wonderful to work with students one on one, and it's incredibly rewarding. But naturally, it's limited um, to how many people you're able to reach. And so, creating this book, um, it's it's made it so accessible. Um, you can even have it as an ebook, um,
Mhm.
not just a paperback. So, with our with our technology now, um, things are more accessible than ever. And I wanted this book to feel like a resource, like a toolbox instead of a textbook. So I didn't want to. make it too big or too wordy. Um, and you don't necessarily need every tool all the time. Um, but as I was writing the book, I realized that in a way I was gathering solutions to problems
Hmm.
um, that I came across in school. So, how to write good notes, um, how to prepare for a presentation, how to organize my files, even, down to the basics of how do you name a file? How do you organize your file system? I put everything in there. And I realized that I was like collecting um, collecting these solutions, and it became a toolbox. So you can go in and you can just look up what you need in that moment, um, and go from there. So it's really it's really such a great tool in itself, and one way that I hope students will learn, and use it is to create their own toolboxes,
Hmm.
start collecting their own solutions, right? How they study the best, what learning strategies help them the most. Um, Taking my templates for workflow or organization and customizing it to their strengths and their challenges. I think that's really going to be one of the most impactful things they can do.
Yeah, you're one woman with a lot of impact. And, just taking what you learned and how you learned it and what works best and strategizing that, it's a really important message to put out in the world. It's a really uh, beautiful foundation of tools that you've given so many. And there's so many tools. It's not just even about studying, it's about, taking a study break and going out and being in nature. So it implements more than just tools and how you learn. It implements your whole life kind of into one book, and you're doing it for students when they need it the most. That is thought leadership at its finest, Andrea. I promise you. So before we close out today, I really want to speak directly to that student or perhaps that parent listening, on their behalf. For the student who is struggling right now and beginning to believe that they simply aren't smart enough or capable enough, what would you want them to hear from you today? Again, you can use it in experience. I know we have a shared experience in our learning journeys. Uh, yeah.
Mhm. Yes. Um, I want to say that um, struggling does not mean that you're incapable. Um, it these things take time, and as we mentioned, nobody has has taught us how to manage learning, and it's really unfair to expect everyone um, to just excel and everything.
Yeah.
And um, when the shared experience that you mentioned, when I was in high school, my high school guidance counselor told me to not go to university, even though she knew that it was my lifelong dream to go. And she said that I would be a dropout. Needless to say, I did not listen. But um, of course, it has a profound effect um,
Yes.
on students. And um, I I knew that um, in my heart that I was able to do it. And I know in my heart that so many students are also able to fulfill their dreams. And just because somebody doesn't believe in you
or gives you bad advice, it doesn't mean that you need to take it and believe them. Um, Please, if you're struggling, reach out for support. There are so many people out there, whether it's in your school or your community, um, who believe in you and who want to support you. Just keep going. And, not all advice is going to be a match for you, but that doesn't mean that you can't succeed.
Yeah.
So just hang in there, keep going. We all struggle, in our lives. Um, all the successful people that you see, they've gone through a lot of struggle as well. So don't worry about making mistakes, because that's also how we learn, is from our mistakes. And so they're actually quite valuable.
Yeah,
Um,
they are.
and so yeah, so that is my message, to keep going, find those resources, and find those people who will support you, and you can absolutely do it.
Oh, I love that message. And thank you for being vulnerable. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I think
Okay.
an important element when someone gives you bad advice, but look how strong you are as a human. You defied them. I did not. I didn't go the university route, even though it was a dream. I went the college route instead. And it came full circle. That teacher told me, you can't write an essay, don't go to university, but you can write poetry. So, a few decades later, I write poetry, fine. Um, but you have to be resilient to go against, like, we're so impressionable in high school. And you either take their advice or you don't, and you didn't. That's who you are. And you went and got not only one degree, but 3 degrees, and then wrote a successful book. So I'm so glad you shared that experience. Again, I apologize to put it on the spot, but I thought it was a really important element to who you are and what you've created
Mhm.
from someone giving bad advice. So, Andrea, where can our listeners connect with you, learn more about your work, and find my student toolbox before we sign off today?
Mhm. Yeah, so you can find my student toolbox on Amazon. It's available as a paperback and as an ebook. You can also find me and my student toolbox on Instagram and on YouTube as well. You just search my student toolbox, it will come up.
Lovely. Love you. Thank you, Andrea, for taking the time to join me today and for allowing us to meet the woman behind my student toolbox. I think one of the most powerful reminders from this conversation is that struggling doesn't necessarily mean someone's lack of ability. Sometimes they simply haven't been given the tools, as you so gracefully expressed today, the language or the approach that allows their strengths to emerge. And that's why conversations like this truly matter. To everyone that is listening, thank you for joining us on another Meet the Author conversation on the air with the book crawl. I am your public house host, Melissa Heathers, where authors rise as thought leaders and own the mic, where the stories behind the pages are heard and the voices lead, because every story is worth savoring. Until next time, keep turning the page.